I want to tell you something that might sound absolutely wild, but I promise you it's the truth I've seen proven over and over again in the most miraculous ways. December is not just another month on your calendar. It is a portal. It is a supernatural doorway standing wide open right now, and if you understand what I'm about to share with you, you can walk through it and find money flowing to you in ways that will make you weep with gratitude. You see, I've watched people struggle for years, decades even, pushing and forcing and trying to make money come to them through sheer will and endless exhausting effort. And then, something shifts. They learn what I'm going to teach you today, and suddenly, everything changes. The phone rings with an unexpected opportunity. A check arrives in the mail from a source they'd forgotten about. A stranger offers them exactly what they needed, and it all seems like coincidence. Like luck, like magic. But it isn't luck, my dear. It's law. It's the law of attraction. And in December, this law becomes exponentially more powerful because of what's happening in the invisible realm all around you. Right now, as we speak, there is an energy building. Can you feel it? The year is preparing to close. People everywhere are thinking about new beginnings, fresh starts, transformations. They're contemplating what they want to leave behind and what they want to call forward. This collective consciousness creates a wave, an actual wave of manifesting power that you can ride if you know how to position yourself. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But first, I need you to understand something fundamental. Money is not what you think it is. Money is not paper. It is not metal. It is not even numbers in a bank account. Money is a spiritual substance, an energy, a current that flows through the universe, seeking channels through which to express itself. And you, yes, you, can become one of those channels. You can become a magnet for this energy. But only if you stop blocking it with your own thoughts, your own words, your own deeply buried beliefs that you might not even know you're carrying. I've seen fortunes made and lost based entirely on what someone believed deep down in their heart about their own worthiness to receive. And December, this precious December, is offering you a chance to rewrite those beliefs before the new year dawns. You see, there's something most people don't understand about manifestation. They think it's about wanting something hard enough, visualizing it clearly enough, repeating affirmations until their voice goes hoarse. But I'm going to tell you a secret that might shake everything you thought you knew. Your subconscious mind doesn't care about your affirmations. It doesn't care about your vision boards. It doesn't even care about how desperately you want something. What it cares about is what you actually believe to be true. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're standing in front of a door. On the other side of that door is everything you've ever wanted. Abundance, love, freedom, peace. All of it, just waiting for you. Now, consciously, you're saying, I want to open this door. I deserve what's behind this door. I'm ready for what's behind this door. But here's what's really happening. Your subconscious mind is standing behind you, arms crossed, whispering. But people like us don't get things like that. Remember what happened last time you tried? Remember what your mother said about money? Remember how your father struggled? Remember that failure, that rejection, that humiliation? And that whisper, my friend, is louder than any affirmation you could ever speak. This is why you see people who seem to do everything right, who work harder than anyone else, who have all the talent and all the drive, and yet they can't seem to break through. It's not because the universe is withholding. It's not because they're cursed or unlucky or born under the wrong star. It's because somewhere deep inside, there's a program running that says, this is as good as it gets for someone like me. The beautiful thing, the absolutely magnificent thing, is that you can rewrite that program. You can reach into your subconscious mind and pull out those old, dusty, borrowed beliefs that were never even yours to begin with, and you can replace them with truth. You can plant new seeds in the fertile soil of your imagination. And here's what most people don't understand. Your subconscious doesn't argue with you. It doesn't fact-check. It doesn't say, well, actually, based on your past performance. No, it's completely neutral. It's like the most obedient servant you could ever imagine. You tell it something with feeling, with conviction, with repetition, and it says, yes, master, consider it done. Think about that for a moment. The same mechanism that's been working against you all these years can work for you just as powerfully. The same imagination that's been conjuring up worst-case scenarios can start building palaces of possibility. You just have to give it different instructions. I once knew a woman who came to me absolutely convinced she would die poor. She'd say it like it was written in stone. "I'll never have enough. I'll end up a bag lady." And I asked her, "Who told you that?" She thought for a long moment, and then her eyes went wide. "My grandmother," she whispered. "She used to say it about herself, and then she'd look at me and say, 'And you're just like me, dear.' A curse handed down like a family heirloom, a prophecy spoken over a child who had no defense against it. And for 40 years, this woman had been living it out, making just enough to scrape by, losing money in the strangest ways, watching opportunities slip through her fingers like water. But here's the miracle. Within 6 months of changing her inner conversation, of speaking a new word about herself, her entire financial situation transformed. Not through struggle, not through grinding harder, through alignment. Through finally giving her subconscious mind a new set of instructions. Your words are either building your future or dismantling it. There's no neutral ground. Every time you say, "I can't afford that," you're giving an instruction. Every time you say, "I'm so bad with money," you're placing an order with the universe. Every time you say, "Nothing ever works out for me," you're designing tomorrow's disappointment. Your words aren't just commentary on your life. They're the blueprint. They're the architect's plans. The universe doesn't judge them as complaints or confessions. It receives them as commands. I once knew a woman who could never keep money. The moment it came into her hands, it vanished. She'd laugh nervously and say, "Money just burns a hole in my pocket." And I'd watch her, week after week, as money literally dissolved from her life. She'd find unexpected bills. She'd impulse buy. She'd lend and never be repaid. Her words had become her reality. The hole she kept speaking about became the drain through which her prosperity flowed away. When I finally said to her, "Stop declaring yourself a leaking vessel," something shifted in her eyes. We replaced that phrase with a new one: "I am a wise steward of abundant resources." It felt awkward on her tongue at first, like an ill-fitting dress, but she wore it anyway. Within 3 months, her entire financial landscape had transformed. Same job, same income, completely different reality. Because here's what most people don't understand. The subconscious mind is literal. It doesn't interpret. It doesn't analyze whether you're joking or exaggerating. It simply accepts and executes. When you say, "I'm drowning in debt," your subconscious doesn't hear metaphor. It hears an instruction to create more of that drowning sensation. It will orchestrate circumstances, decisions, and coincidences to match your declaration. This is why the ancient texts warned us to guard our tongues as we would guard treasure. Your words are more valuable than gold because they create the reality in which gold either flows to you or flees from you. They're the difference between opening doors and building walls, between magnetizing opportunity and repelling it. So I ask you now, with complete honesty, what have you been declaring over your finances? What have you been speaking into existence? Because I promise you, those words are working right now, this very moment, weaving the fabric of your tomorrow. The question isn't whether your words have power. The question is, are you going to keep using that power against yourself? Or are you ready, right now, to turn that power in your favor? I had a woman come to me, once successful businesswoman, beautiful home, everything that should have made her happy. But she was drowning in debt that made no logical sense. Her income was good. Her expenses weren't extravagant. And yet, month after month, money slipped through her fingers like water. We sat down together, and I asked her to tell me about her earliest memory of money. Her face changed immediately. She was 7 years old, standing in her kitchen, watching her mother cry over bills spread across the table. And her mother said something that burned into this little girl's mind. "Money is the root of all our problems. We'll never have enough." 30 years later, this woman was still living out that declaration. Not because it was true, but because a 7-year-old girl believed her mother. And that belief became the invisible architect of her entire financial reality. I told her what I'm telling you now. You are not bound by anyone else's words. Not your mother's, not your father's, not your teachers, or your ex's, or society's. The only words that have power over your life are the words you accept and repeat. She started speaking differently about money that very day, not with some elaborate ritual or complex technique. She simply stopped agreeing with lack. When the thought came, "I never have enough," she caught it, and she replaced it with the truth. "Money flows to me easily and constantly." Did her bank account change overnight? No. But something shifted immediately. She started noticing opportunities she'd been blind to. A client who'd owed her money for months suddenly paid. She found herself saying yes to a project she would have normally declined, and it doubled her income that quarter. Within 6 months, the debt that had strangled her for years was gone. Not through suffering or sacrifice. Through alignment. Through finally letting her words build instead of destroy. This is what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. Your subconscious mind doesn't argue with you. It doesn't question whether what you're saying is sensible or realistic. It simply accepts your words as instructions and gets to work making them real. So when you're repeating words of lack, struggle, and impossibility, your subconscious isn't sitting there thinking, "Oh, they don't really mean that." No. It's saying, "Understood." Creating more situations where money is scarce. Orchestrating circumstances that feel impossible. Done. But here's the magnificent flip side that changes everything. When you speak words of abundance, health, and divine supply, your subconscious responds with the exact same obedience. It starts rearranging your entire world to match those words instead. I've seen this happen so many times, it still takes my breath away. A woman came to me drowning in debt, absolutely convinced she was born unlucky with money. Those were her exact words, repeated like a prayer she didn't even know she was saying. Born unlucky with money. Her subconscious had taken that directive seriously for 43 years. We changed just one thing. Every morning and every night, she looked in the mirror and said, "I am a magnet for money. Abundance flows to me easily and constantly. That's it." She didn't believe it at first. She felt ridiculous saying it, but she said it anyway. Within 2 weeks, a former employer contacted her about a forgotten pension she was owed. Within a month, she got a job offer that paid 40% more than she'd ever earned. Within 3 months, she'd paid off half her debt. Her circumstances didn't change because the universe suddenly decided to be nice to her. They changed because she reprogrammed the instruction manual she'd been handing her subconscious mind every single day. Your words are not idle noise floating into the void. They are creation itself. They are the architect's plans that your subconscious mind follows with absolute precision and unwavering loyalty. So right now, this very moment, I want you to think about the words you've been using. What instructions have you been giving? What reality have you been ordering up like a meal you didn't even realize you'd requested? Because here's what most people don't understand. Your words aren't just describing your life. They're prescribing it. Every time you say, "I can't afford this," you're giving your subconscious mind a direct order. Every time you declare, "I'm so unlucky," you're essentially placing a standing order with the universe for more of the same. And the universe, being the perfect servant that it is, says, "Your wish is my command." I've watched this play out 1,000 times. A woman comes to me and says, "I never meet the right people." And I ask her, "How long have you been saying that?" She looks surprised. "Well, for years, I suppose." Because it's true. But don't you see? It's true because she's been decreeing it. She's been speaking that reality into existence with every repetition. The very words she uses to describe her problem have become the architecture of her prison. Your subconscious mind doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It doesn't say, "Oh, she doesn't really mean that." It takes every word as a command, as an instruction manual for building your reality. Say, "I'm always tired often enough," and you'll find exhaustion becomes your constant companion, even when there's no physical reason for it. Say, "Nothing ever works out for me," and you'll unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that comes your way, just to prove yourself right. And here's the truly fascinating part. You can't trick your subconscious mind with cleverness or manipulation. You can't say words you don't believe and expect miracles. That's why affirmations fall flat for so many people. They stand in front of the mirror, dead broke, and recite, "I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy," while their inner voice screams, "Liar, liar, liar." The subconscious mind knows. It always knows. What you need isn't deception, it's conviction. You need to speak words that your spirit can accept, that your inner self recognizes as possible truth. Sometimes that means starting smaller, gentler. Instead of "I am wealthy" when you're drowning in bills, perhaps "money comes to me in unexpected ways," or "I am open to receiving abundance." These statements don't trigger that internal resistance. They create a bridge between where you are and where you're going. The key is believability. Your subconscious mind is incredibly intelligent, but it's also literal. If you're speaking words that every fiber of your being rejects, you're not affirming, you're lying. And your subconscious knows the difference. I once worked with a woman who was terrified of public speaking. She had an opportunity that required her to present to large audiences, and she came to me saying, "I keep telling myself I'm a confident speaker, but I feel worse every time I say it." Of course she did. Her subconscious had years of evidence to the contrary. Every panic attack, every avoided opportunity, every sleepless night before a presentation, all of it was stored in her mental records. So we changed the affirmation. Instead of claiming a confidence she didn't feel, she started with, "I am willing to become comfortable speaking to others." Then, "Each time I speak, I learn and improve." Then, "I trust my message is valuable regardless of my nervousness." These were statements she could actually believe. And you know what happened? Within 6 months, she was speaking regularly. Not because she pretended her fear didn't exist, but because she built a genuine bridge from fear to confidence. This is the wisdom the positive thinking movement often misses. You can't bully your subconscious into submission with false enthusiasm. You have to work with it, honor where you actually are, and gently guide it toward where you want to be. And here's something else that matters tremendously: the emotional component. Words alone are not enough. You must feel the truth of what you're speaking. This is why I always say that affirmations are most powerful when they're spoken with conviction, with feeling, with a sense of reality already present. When you say, "I am surrounded by love," don't just recite the words like a shopping list. Close your eyes. Feel warmth in your chest. Remember a moment when you felt genuinely loved. Let that sensation fill you as you speak. This is what activates the subconscious. Emotion is the language it understands best. When you affirm with feeling, you're not just speaking words into empty air. You're impressing the invisible substance all around you. You're molding it with your conviction. I remember a woman who came to me, her finances in absolute ruin. She owed money she couldn't repay, and creditors were hounding her daily. She was drowning in fear. I taught her this. Every morning and every night, she was to stand before her mirror and say aloud, "God is my unfailing supply." And large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. At first, she spoke the words mechanically, her voice flat and unconvinced. I stopped her immediately. "You sound as if you're ordering something you don't expect to receive," I said. "Speak as though the money is already on its way. Feel the relief. Feel the gratitude." She closed her eyes, took a breath, and spoke again. This time, her voice softened. She let herself imagine the freedom, the peace. Within 3 weeks, an old debt was repaid to her money she'd written off years ago as lost. Within 2 months, she received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative she barely knew existed. Was this magic? No, it was law. The law of mental equivalence. She changed the inner image, and the outer circumstances rearranged themselves to match. Now, you may be thinking, what if I don't feel it? What if I say the words, but inside I'm still afraid? This is where persistence comes in. Feeling follows practice. At first, you may have to act as if. You may have to speak your affirmation with borrowed faith, as though you're playing a role. But as you continue, the feeling will grow. The subconscious begins to accept the new pattern. The fear loosens its grip. Think of it like warming cold hands by a fire. At first, you feel nothing, then a faint warmth, then comfort, then the chill is completely forgotten. Your affirmations work the same way. Repetition with attention builds heat in the invisible. And here's another key. Never argue with your doubts. When a fearful thought arises, and it will, don't fight it. Don't give it energy by resisting. Simply replace it. The moment you notice worry creeping in, speak your word of truth again, gently, firmly. Redirect your mind like you would a wandering child. You are training yourself into a new consciousness. And consciousness is everything. Now here's where most spiritual teachings leave you hanging. They tell you to change your thoughts. But they don't tell you times how to believe the new thought asterisk. They don't tell you how to make it feel real when your bank account is screaming one story and you're trying to tell yourself another. This is the missing piece. This is what separates those who transform their lives from those who just collect affirmations like trading cards. You must times act as if asterisk, not as pretending, not as denial, but as times living from the assumption times that what you've spoken is already done in the invisible realm. When I decree that divine order is established in my finances, I don't then rush around in panic trying to manipulate outcomes. I don't refresh my bank app 40 times a day. I don't make desperate phone calls. Those actions are affirmations of lack. They're saying, I don't really believe what I just declared. Instead, I give thanks. I make decisions from the consciousness of abundance, not from fear. If an invitation comes that requires money I don't currently have in hand, but my inner voice says yes, I say yes. Because I'm not living from what's visible, I'm living from what's real. The visible is always the times result asterisk. The invisible is the times cause asterisk. You are dealing with a law as exact as the law of electricity. When you turn on a switch with confidence, you don't stand there begging the light to come on. You don't hope it works. You times expect times it because you understand the law. This is how you must approach your word. Speak it, release it, expect it. I know a woman who needed to sell her home. The market was terrible. Everyone told her it was impossible at her asking price. But she planted herself firmly in the consciousness that infinite intelligence is now guiding this situation to the perfect right outcome. She didn't drop her price out of fear. She didn't take the first desperate offer. She maintained her peaceful, expectant attitude. And the perfect buyer appeared, someone who'd been looking for exactly that house, who'd delayed their search, who paid her full price. Was it coincidence? Was it luck? Or was it law? You already know the answer. And when you know it's law, everything changes. You stop begging. You stop hoping. You stop wringing your hands, wondering if maybe, possibly, perhaps the universe will smile upon you this time. You simply know. I once worked with a woman who was convinced she had to suffer for everything good that came to her. She would receive a blessing and immediately brace herself for the punishment. Got a raise? Must mean something bad is coming. Found love? Better watch out, it won't last. I asked her, do you think the rose apologizes for blooming? Do you think the bird hesitates before singing because it might lose its voice tomorrow? She looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. But here's what I told her. The universe doesn't work on a credit and debit system. It's not keeping score. When you plant a seed, you get a plant. Not a plant, and then divine retribution for daring to want a plant. She began to shift her words. Instead of, I hope this lasts, she said, I am worthy of sustained good. Instead of, this is too good to be true, she declared, this is exactly what I deserve. Within months, her entire life reorganized itself around this new inner conviction. Not because she manipulated or forced anything, but because she stopped blocking her own good with fear and superstition. You see, most people treat blessings like hot potatoes. They receive them and immediately want to throw them away before they get burned. They cannot accept that good can come without a catch, without a cost, without a cosmic bill coming due. But the law doesn't punish you for using it correctly. Fire doesn't burn you for using it to warm your home. Water doesn't drown you for drinking it with gratitude. And the law of mental equivalence doesn't strike you down for daring to claim your good. This is the part where people get confused. They think humility means rejecting blessings. They think spirituality means staying small. But I'll tell you what real humility is. It's recognizing that the power working through you is divine, and then times getting out of its way asterisk. It's saying, not my will, but thy will, and then trusting that thy will for you is times good asterisk. False humility says, I'm not worthy. True humility says, I am worthy because I am made in the image and likeness of infinite abundance. Do you see the difference? One keeps you paralyzed, the other sets you free. Now, I want to address something that may be troubling your heart right now. Perhaps you're thinking, this sounds beautiful, but I've made so many mistakes. I've failed so many times. How can I possibly claim this prosperity when I've squandered every opportunity I've been given? Listen carefully. Your past does not define your future unless you insist on dragging it with you like chains around your ankles. Every moment is a fresh beginning. Every breath you take is a new opportunity to align yourself with the infinite supply. The universe does not keep a ledger of your mistakes. Only you do that. Only your fearful, doubt-filled consciousness creates that prison of regret. I once knew a woman who had lost everything. Her business had failed, her savings were gone, her family had turned away from her. She came to me in absolute despair and said, "I had my chance and I ruined it. God will never trust me again." I looked at her and said, "My dear, God is not a disappointed parent withholding your allowance. God is infinite abundance seeking expression through you. Your so-called failure was simply a lesson in what does not work. Now you have wisdom you did not have before." She didn't believe me at first, but she began to work with affirmations. She began to see herself not as a failure, but as a student who had completed a difficult course. Within 2 years, she had rebuilt her life beyond her wildest imagination. Not because she earned it through suffering, but because she finally stopped punishing herself and opened the door to receive. Your mistakes are not barriers to your prosperity. They are the compost from which your greatest abundance will grow, if you let them be. But you must release them. You must forgive yourself completely and absolutely. Say this with me. I forgive myself for every mistake I have made. I release all guilt, all shame, all regret. I am worthy of infinite abundance right now, in this moment, exactly as I am. Did you say it? Did you feel resistance? That resistance is the last guardian at the gate, and you must walk right past it. Because here's what happens. The moment you declare that truth, the moment you claim your worthiness, without condition, without waiting for permission, without needing proof, the universe rearranges itself to match your decree. I've seen it happen in the most extraordinary ways. A woman who spoke those words, truly spoke them from the core of her being, found an unexpected check in the mail 3 days later. Not because magic happened, but because she finally had the inner clarity to remember a refund she was owed, to make the phone call, to follow through. Her inner shift created outer action. A man who declared his worthiness stopped sabotaging his business meetings. He stopped showing up late, stopped underpricing his services, stopped apologizing for taking up space. Within a month, his income doubled. Not because the world changed, but because he did. This is how spiritual law works. You cannot receive what you believe you're unworthy of. The universe is constantly saying yes to your inner conversations. If you're walking around thinking, "I'm not ready yet, I'm not good enough yet, I still need to fix myself," then you're placing an order for more not enoughness. You're instructing the universe to keep abundance at a distance. But when you shift that inner conversation, when you stand firm in the truth that you are worthy now, you open the channels. You stop blocking your own good. Now, I want you to notice something. Notice how your mind might already be trying to discount what I'm saying. But Florence, you don't understand my situation. I have real debt, real problems, real limitations. Yes, and those are facts of the moment. But they are not your destiny unless you crown them as such. The spiritual realm doesn't see your debt, it sees your declaration. It responds to the currency of consciousness, not the balance in your bank account. I knew a woman who was $30,000 in debt. She was drowning, but she began to practice this truth every single day. I am worthy of infinite abundance. She stopped fighting reality, stopped resenting her situation, and simply held the vision of her worthiness. Within 18 months, that debt was gone. She didn't win the lottery. She didn't inherit money. She got a new job opportunity that seemed to appear out of nowhere. She made clear decisions. Doors opened that had previously been invisible to her. This is not fantasy. This is law. So right now, I'm asking you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to release your grip on the how. Stop trying to figure out how abundance will come. Stop trying to engineer the path. Your job is not to be the general contractor of the universe. Your job is to be the architect of your consciousness. Speak your worthiness. Feel it. Let it saturate every cell of your being. And then watch as the universe begins to conspire in your favor. I've watched students practice this for just 30 days and attract opportunities that seemed impossible. Jobs appear, money flows, relationships heal. Not because they forced anything, but because they aligned their inner world with their desire. You see, the universe doesn't respond to your desperation, it responds to your frequency. When you vibrate at the level of gratitude, abundance, and certainty, you become a magnet for those very things. Think of yourself as a tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork at a certain frequency, every other tuning fork in the room at that same frequency begins to vibrate in harmony. You don't see the sound waves, but the effect is undeniable. Your consciousness works the same way. Match the frequency of what you desire, and it must come to you. This is why affirmations sometimes fail for people. They're speaking words while their entire being is screaming doubt. The words say, "I am prosperous," but the feeling says, "I'm terrified I won't have enough." The universe reads your vibration, not your vocabulary. The shift happens when you stop trying to convince yourself and start declaring from a place of knowing. There's a difference between hoping something will happen and knowing it already is. One is begging. The other is claiming your inheritance. I want you to understand something profound. You are not separate from your good. The thing you desire is not out there somewhere, miles away, playing hard to get. It exists in consciousness first, and consciousness is where you live. The moment you claim it within, the outer manifestation is simply the echo. So today, right now, I'm asking you to make a choice. Will you continue to live as though you're powerless, waiting for permission from circumstances? Or will you step into the truth of who you are, a creative, powerful being with the authority to command your own experience? The game is always won in your mind first. Master your inner world, and the outer world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. This is law. This is truth. This is your power. And so we come to the threshold, the place where understanding becomes action, where faith transforms into demonstration. You have heard the truth. You have felt it stir within you. Now you must live it. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances align, not when you feel more ready. Now. This present moment is your point of power. This breath you are breathing is your opportunity. I say to you, begin where you are. Speak your word into whatever situation confronts you today. Is there lack? Speak abundance. Is there discord? Speak harmony. Is there illness? Speak perfect health. Your word carries the full force of the infinite when you speak it with conviction, with faith, with the knowing that it is already accomplished in the invisible realm. Do not wait for proof before you believe. Belief is what brings the proof. This is the divine order. You must be willing to stand alone with your faith, to hold your vision steady even when the outer world screams otherwise. The people around you may not understand. They may call you foolish, impractical, deluded. Let them. Their doubt cannot touch your demonstration unless you give it power. I have watched people turn their entire lives around with a single decision, the decision to stop arguing for their limitations and start claiming their good. One woman came to me drowning in debt, and I taught her to bless every bill, to say, "God is my unfailing supply," as she wrote each check. Within months, unexpected money flowed to her from directions she had never imagined, not because of magic, but because she changed her consciousness. She stopped vibrating poverty and began vibrating abundance. This is available to you. Every promise, every good thing, every desire of your heart that is in alignment with your highest good, it is already yours in the spiritual realm. Your work is to accept it, to claim it, to bring it through into manifestation by your faith and your word. So speak boldly, act fearlessly, give thanks before the answer appears. This is the walk of faith, and it is the most practical, powerful way to live. You are equipped. You are ready. You are the very presence of God in expression. Now go forth and demonstrate it.